What is up, guys, and welcome back to part 2 on this 2018 Honda 450 rebuild, flip. I don't know what we should consider it, but it's pretty clapped out. So let's get to work on it. In the last video, I picked it up, we washed her. So it's a lot cleaner now, but we do have a very major-ish engine tick on it. It only happens whenever you give it throttle, though. So if you start it up, cold start, no tick, you rev it out a little and it starts to knock a good bit. So that leads me to think it might not be the crankshaft. Hopefully it isn't. It sounds kind of like a decompression lever, valve guide, something like that. Somewhere in the top end, maybe a bucket sticking. I have no clue. But I guess we're going to go ahead and find out and see what we can do. And yeah, let's go ahead, get to working on this thing, and maybe we'll get this thing figured out today. Or not. I guess we'll see. So stay tuned, and hopefully we'll get this bike running minty. As you guys can tell, it is a bit cleaner than in the last video. We worked on the frame a good bit to shine her up. We still got a couple spots left. Like right up here, you can see where the grip tape was that we didn't get fully. Engine's still a little crusty, but it's getting cleaner. Definitely nowhere near what it needs to be, but whenever we tear apart the motor, we can get some of the harder to reach spots. And then whenever we finish it, of course, that last clean will be very nice. So the plastics aren't in bad shape. You can see the stock plastics have not been on the bike for very long because usually all this white is worn out, stuff like that. They're not too scratched up, but you can see, judging by the clutch cover, this thing is pretty roached. Tires look, or the wheels look like they've been spray painted, so they don't have too much wear on them. But you can see right here, down by the foot pegs, see how much wear they have. You can see. The guy said it had 13 hours, but that doesn't come with 13 hours. All of this wear and tear. Definitely not a 13-hour bike, more like 130 hours. But let's get an 8 mil and I guess a razor knife to cut this zip tie that's holding on that. And get this whole bike torn apart. And then we'll get into the head. Hopefully, if we can just take off the valve cover and figure out what's the issue, that'd be super nice. But I'll give you guys a little startup to get a feel of what's happening to it. He did bypass the clutch, where you got to pull the clutch in to start it. So that's pretty cool, but listen to this. Might need choke. Let's give it a little choke, wherever that is. Every bike is different. Here it is. Whenever it warms up, it does go away. Whenever you idle it, then you give it a little throttle, it comes back. So let's go ahead, tear this bike apart. Don't want to run it too long. As you can tell, the tires would look decent if we threw some SC1 on it. So I might do that later, but it's not too big of an issue. We're worried about getting this bike running good. The seat cover is shot. It's got a couple tears in it. Good thing I do have a OEM one that will fit with no rips in it. But the bike doesn't look too bad for the price I paid for it. So I won't tell you guys exactly how much I paid for it, but it was under $3,000. So let me know down in the comments if you would have bought this with this little engine tick. It's kind of like a gamble because it could be the crankshaft. But we're going to tear apart this head real quick, or take off the valve cover at least, and see exactly what's going on with her. Alrighty guys, after further inspection, it doesn't sound like it's nothing from the clutch side, because if you do run it and pull the clutch in, There is no noise reduction, so it doesn't sound like a bearing from the clutch side. I'm gonna tear apart the top end, see if any of these lifters are maybe messed up or overheated or anything. I can't really tell, but the only way you can find out is once you do tear them apart. I'm gonna check the valve clearance before I take anything apart, see if those are in spec. I've got it at top dead center. You can see these two line up. They should be horizontal. You can see that line. That line, they look pretty good. But other than that, it doesn't sound like a crankshaft or piston. It could be piston slap, I'm not sure. It doesn't sound like a chain slap though. Or, doesn't sound like chain slap or rod knock or piston slap, because all of those stuff are kind of like something that you can't really hide. But this right here, when it idles, it sounds perfect. So I'm gonna keep looking into this. Hopefully we can figure out what it is by the end of today's video and then order the parts or fix whatever needs to be fixed. So let's go ahead. I'm gonna research the valve clearances and make sure those are in spec. If not, we're gonna fix it and then put it back together and start it up. If they are in spec, we're gonna take it apart, check all the cam, lifters, head, and then if that doesn't work, we're gonna pull the head and cylinder and make sure all the stuff down in the bottom is perfectly good. So let's go ahead and get to work on this thing. Alrighty guys, it's kind of hard to record, but I just took off the exhaust, took off that coolant line. Most of the stuff should be unhooked. I think we got like one more like coolant temp sensor or something to unhook over on this side. Where is it? This little connector. And then once we get that off, should be 4 12mm bolts to pull the head off, and then it should only be a few bolts to get this cylinder off. Maybe not even a few, maybe no bolts. Pull the cylinder off as well, and we can get a better inspection on what exactly is going down on this bike, because not a lot of wear on the head, to be honest with you. Nothing severely wrong with it to my knowledge. I mean, I kind of know what I'm talking about, but nothing looks really bad with it. All the stuff moves freely, so it could be like a valve, but even if it is a valve, we have to pull off the head, so we might as well check the crankshaft and the piston down on the bottom. So let's go ahead, pull her apart, and see what we can find. I don't really know if I can get a video of me. I might just set a camera up right here and throw her on time lapse, pulling off this head real quick. Alrighty guys, so still honestly not quite sure what's up with it, but piston feels smooth. The crank is solid. This piston is 100% shot, so we're gonna change out the top end on it just to be safe with all the gaskets, and then probably buy a completely entirely new valve train, because you can see all of this garbage does not look very good. And then we got all the valve guides and all in there, which could be screwed up as well. But I think we're just gonna start off by putting a fresh top end in here, so this thing should be fully figured out, hopefully. I mean, the top end is shot anyways. Cylinder looks fine, no issues with this, as you can tell. But we'll get a full fresh top end and get a new timing chain on the bottom, or get a new timing chain and timing chain tensioner because these tend to go bad, and I'm not exactly sure if this one's bad or not, which they could be with no warnings at all. So we're gonna get a new timing chain tensioner. We're gonna get a new timing chain and all valves, piston, rings, and the cylinder looks fine. And hopefully that solves the issue on this bike. If not, then it's probably something else. A lot of people say the valve guides in there go bad, so we're gonna try that out. We're gonna try everything that we can. So we're gonna go ahead, probably wrap up this video right here. Sorry there wasn't much victory here, I guess. Nothing really solved 100%, but we have figured out that this bike is top end is completely due. So we're gonna go ahead, get all that figured out, order up the parts. Hopefully they'll be here by next week, and we'll get back to working on this thing. But until then, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.